Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we welcome Lydia Hearst, whose new movie Slayers is premiering in theaters and video on demand this Friday, October 21st. Lydia, thank you so much for being here today. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. And before we get started, I want to congratulate both you and Chris on your beautiful newborn baby girl who's turning
Oh,
like
thank
nine
you.
months. Is it at the end of this month?
Almost. Yeah, she's 8.5 months right now, so almost 9 months. Yeah.
Almost 9 months. And I got to ask you, having gone through that three times a while back on my own, are you getting more than the 4 hour stretch of sleeps at night yet?
Yes, actually, she's always been a pretty good sleeper. I got really lucky. There have been the occasional nights where teething has only just started, so she's
Okay.
a little more irritable a few nights. But yeah, for the most part, she goes almost from 7 to 7.
That is so awesome. I got to tell you a story with our firstborn. We have three. Our firstborn, we know nothing. They don't
Right.
come. They don't come with a book.
No, they just
So
give you a baby and say good luck. It's harder to go home with a dog or a cat than it is
exactly.
after you've given birth to a baby. They just send you home from the hospital and wish you luck.
Exactly. So here we are at around my daughter is around 4 months old, and the pediatrician told us solid foods usually start around 6 months. So we're like,
Mhm.
okay. But at 4 months old, she's like not she's still crying after she eats. And
Right.
after a week or so, we're like, you know what? Let's start her on solids and see what it does. And that was it. She was just
Yeah,
hungry.
it
So,
happens.
so not every baby follows the same rule book at 6 months. And I got to say, the name Dimity, what a beautiful name. What, do you
Thank
mind me
you.
asking what was the origins of that?
Yes, well, I went to school with a girl named Dimity, who still is a very dear friend of mine. We're incredibly close, and it was sort of one of the names I've always loved her name. And like I said, she's still such a near and dear friend of mine that when we were considering names, it was one of the ones that was kind of thrown into the basket of what we were narrowing the list down to be, and just the meaning behind the name was so important to us because dimity is actually the meaning. It's one of the strongest thread weaves in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a combination of two much weaker threads that come together, combining this great strength. So we just sort of loved the poetry behind that and us sort of coming together, making, our first baby. So
That's
yeah, dimity
beautiful.
went out.
That's beautiful. Beautiful story. Congratulations again. So let's
Thank
get
you.
into the movie Slayers, okay?
Yeah.
A very fun, comedic horror vampire story into the satire side. Now, in your opinion, is the satire geared more towards the upper middle class or the social media influencer culture?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both, to be honest. I think we're sort of poking fun at everybody here. There's the people who, in a sense, believe in all the conspiracies and are tracking down the vampires, and lo and behold, they're the ones who are right. And of course, we're poking fun at the social media influencers because it's fun. We all got to play these crazy heightened versions of TikTokers and
Yeah,
live streamers. And, they all do their job and are amazing in their own right. I would not be able to do that all day, every day. But it was a lot of fun to play a character who was like that. And
hmm,
so different from who I am, where her entire life is broadcast on social media and live
absolutely.
streams, and it's all about the likes and subscribes. Um,
Exactly.
and me in real life, I'm much more subdued and quite a bit more private and
Mm-hmm.
reserved when it comes to my real life. And then, of course, we have Malin's character and her husband, who they're just these great overlords, and turns out they're vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been around making billions of dollars. And in a way, they're trying to help save the planet, but at the same time, make it their own planet.
Oh yeah, they have their own
Yeah,
little motives. So you play
they
the
do.
character of Liz. When we first are introduced to you in the film, you're engaged to be
Yes.
married. Now, when you first read through your character, what were your impressions of Liz?
Liz, she's not an airhead, but she's definitely a vapid pseudo socialite, social climber,
Mm-hmm.
want to be infamous media trendsetter. That's pretty much who she is in a nutshell. she has moments where she dives a little bit deeper, but there really isn't that much once you look beneath the surface when it comes to Liz. She, has her eyes on the prize. She has one main singular focus, and that is success, fame, infamy.
Status,
Yes.
that's what's the most important thing to her is money and status.
Yes.
When you were building her backstory, what helped you become Liz? What kind of backstory did you put for her?
For Liz, it was just sort of one of those things where I worked on it quite a bit with Asher, and we decided that she obviously did not have close relationship to her parents, because if she had a good relationship with her parents, they probably would have made sure she had a more solid head on her shoulders.
Probably.
And she really just will do anything and everything she can to succeed and get that status and become infamous. And she thinks she's working hard at it, but the only thing that she's working hard at is taking everyone else around her down.
Exactly.
So she's a lot more diabolical and conniving and manipulative. And you sort of see that in the relationship between her and Jack's character and Kara's character when they're arguing about signing the papers and moving forward. And it was a lot of fun to kind of play with that.
And, that leads me to another question that I had a little bit later on, but I'm going to ask you it now. In a lot of the horror movies, which you made such a successful career out of, it seems like you love playing the villain in the horror movies.
I do.
Do you?
I think because it's so different from who I am in real life and at home. I mean, I'd like to think I'm not some evil master villain character, but I think it's fun to play these characters and really get into it and change yourself. Like with a lot of the roles that I do, I sort of change my personality, not off screen. I don't go totally method. But I change, and tap into different aspects of my personality. I change my hair color. I put in contacts for my eyes. I get a spray tan. I don't get a spray tan. For this movie, I actually went back to having red hair. I'd had black hair up until filming for this started. So it was fun to kind of get that change again and switch things up and just be someone totally different from myself. I mean, that's sort of why I love what I do. I get to play these other people and dress up and play pretend and live in a world of make-believe. It's fun.
What could be funner than that? Now, in the movie, right, you and your fiance are asked to participate in a game that's called Blood Trail. Now, the only person in your group of friends that sort of sees this as suspicious is Flynn. What do you think is it about Liz that just makes her disregard any fishiness to this whole thing and put herself and her fiance in danger, her friends in danger, just to go after the prize?
Well, I think she just does not have any respect or care for Flynn as it is. No. I mean, Flynn is a gamer, and as far as Liz is concerned, she doesn't understand that world. She doesn't care about video games. She thinks it's childish, and she wants Flynn to grow up. And she thinks that growing up means getting fame and fortune and status and sort of elevating yourself and having everything that, looks good on paper. It doesn't matter what's happening behind the scenes. She wants a Kardashian-esque lifestyle, so to speak. And she just wants the cameras always to be on and to live that Hollywood fairy tale. And so anything that Flynn says or suggests or brings up, Liz doesn't want to hear it. She just, anything Flynn says is beneath her.
And with Flynn, I think she's more attracted to his followers, which he has like 5 million of, than Flynn himself. And of course, Flynn bends over backwards to whatever Liz's request is.
Of course. Well, yeah, because Liz and Flynn have almost the same amount of followers, but Liz has a little bit more, whereas Jack had something, I can't remember how many they gave him in the movie, but I think it was something like close to 20 million.
Yeah, so. Some crazy number.
Yeah.
Now, what would a vampire story be without the vampire hunter? Thomas Jane, who plays, his name is Elliot Jones. Not only is he the vampire hunter, he narrates the story, which is a nice little touch on the film. It also adds to the comedic element. What did you think of this story being told through narration and those images, those random images that
It
were
was
given
really
throughout.
fun and different. And
Yeah.
I thought that it really worked well with the social media element because if you're watching, I guess, YouTube, TikTok, and I don't know if people still use Snapchat in real life. I'm
I
not good at
think
the
they
social
do.
media platforms. But I feel like a lot of those videos, sort of with the reels and whatever, they kind of intercut and they're flashy and they're exciting. And so it kind of worked with this storytelling where you have the one person that's flowing through and letting you know what's happening, what's taking place, and kind of cueing you in and queuing up the next scene. It
Yeah.
it was different and it was fun and creative. I liked it.
I liked it a lot too.
Yeah, I really liked what Asher did there. It was cool.
Now Malin Ackerman plays Beverly Rector.
Yes,
Beverly is someone that Liz just adores. I think Liz wants to be Beverly.
of
What do you
course. I
think
mean,
about that?
Beverly is like the face of Rector Media. She
Hmm.
is, and their whole enterprise. She is the epitome of perfection as far as Liz is concerned. That's who she wants to be. She's married to a wealthy man. She can do anything and everything. People will do anything for her at the drop of a hat. Like that's her ultimate goal in life, to be Beverly. And
Yep.
ultimately that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
not quite the way she expected it to.
Now, your fiance Flynn is through a plot twist in the story. We find out that you guys were not just randomly selected.
Right.
His character plays a pivotal role to a sort of a plot twist. Now,
Yeah.
how easily Liz, for lack of a better term, turns on Flynn. What does that tell us about even more about her character? Does it just
Oh,
feed?
I mean, Liz would probably even take her future husband for everything he's got. I'm
Yeah.
willing to bet that if the Stephen Rector character was going to leave Beverly, like Liz would have been like, okay, like she does not care about or look out for anyone but herself. Like she really does not have any redeeming qualities. She was a
No.
lot of fun to play, but she is not a good person.
Now there's a great showdown towards the climax of the film between you and Flynn.
Yeah, that was so much fun
Tell
to
us what it
film.
was like to
Yeah.
shoot that sequence.
It was a lot of fun. It was super action packed. We didn't have stunt doubles for that because there's a whole fight between the Elliot character, Thomas Jane, and then me and Kara Flynn.
Yeah.
And it was just, we had to shoot it in pieces, but at the same time, it actually went really fast and it really flowed. It was kind of like this crazy dance that we'd all worked out in rehearsal and just kept going through the beats and the moves. And there was one time that I made a mistake. It was sort of it was not an intentional mistake, but it was in the middle of filming and we run through it all. But without giving anything away, something comes flying at my face, but I reached up a moment too soon to grab it, and it went straight into my hand. And
Oh
so
my
it was
God.
one of those moments. It goes into my hand, and we're sitting there, and she and I just made eye contact, and I was like, "Ow! Oh no!"
What a
And
funny
then one thing
story.
that's also crazy too that people don't realize, and actually Kara and I didn't realize when we were filming, those syringes that were filled with like garlic and things, they actually were filled with garlic water and things because one time it broke on us in the middle of one of the takes and we were like,
Oh my God.
oh no, what is that smell? And for the next few days, our wardrobe, everything just reeked.
That is funny.
It was gross, but it was fun.
So, Kay Asher Levin directed this film.
Yeah.
What'd you think about how Asher likes to work with his actors?
I mean, he was great. He also co-wrote the film. So it was a
Hmm.
lot of fun because even when we were filming, there was sort of this new life and energy that was brought into the production where he really wanted to sit down with the actors and make sure they were comfortable with the dialogue, that, the words felt natural and that it was all sort of fluid. So there were moments that we were allowed to sort of improvise and throw out random lines here and there and play with the actual dialogue to just breathe a little more life into it and make it a little bit more our own. I mean, I would say it was about 90% what was written on the page, but it was
Uh-huh.
fun to have the option to have some freedom and play with these characters and make them our own in a sense and not just what was there on the page. So it was good. And he was also just so great because especially when you're working on an indie film, you don't have a lot of time. You have
No.
like a 2 week, 2.5 week window to get the whole movie done and everything in the can. So sometimes you don't really get more than a couple
Hmm.
takes of your coverage to get a whole scene. And it was really great that he wanted to make sure that not just he felt like he got what he wanted on the camera, but that like we as actors really achieved
Yeah.
what it was that we were hoping to get in every scene. So that was really nice.
Were there any moments where you were debating, when you were bringing Liz to life, to sort of give her some depth, or did you think that would take away from the shallowness of what's supposed to be
We
Liz?
we toyed with that. We did. But it didn't ultimately it was sort of one of those things that you don't it doesn't work if you feel bad for
Yeah.
Liz. Liz
No.
Liz is not a great person. And if we'd given her more depth, then there really wouldn't be any way to understand why she does everything that she does. I mean, the reason she does it is because that's all she wants in life. She wants to get
Exactly.
ahead. She wants to succeed. And there isn't anything else to it other than that. Social media and fame and infamy and success, that's all there is. That is the end all be all for her.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there probably are people like that who
There are.
exist in the world. So
I can vouch to that. Now, in the whole genre of horror that you've done quite a few movies in, as a fan of horror, do you have any particular subgenre? Like, is it horror comedy, psychological,
um,
paranormal? What do you enjoy watching?
I I honestly love all of them, and I know that sounds so weird to say, but I pretty much consume some form of horror all day, every day, whether I'm reading a book or whether I'm watching true crime or, it really depends. I love a lot of foreign horror,
Yeah,
particularly Spanish. But yeah, it really depends on my mood. I know that sounds weird to say, but I watch a lot of everything and I try to make sure that I'm seeing everything that's out there. And that's also why, how and why I got so involved with Screenfest, because I get the
yeah,
opportunity to see so many fascinating, cool, and unique films that I otherwise might not be able to see. And
exactly.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to another movie that came out this year that you were in, and that is Titanic 666. It's available on Tubi.
That was fun.
And that scene where you emerge from inside of another, man, that was wow.
It was really that was the last movie I filmed. I think I was about 6 months pregnant during that. And it was the last movie I did before I was put onto bed rest and I couldn't move anymore. And it was so intense and so much fun.
Have you done any movies this year, or you're
I
still
have. Yes, I
awesome?
was actually back on set 8 weeks postpartum, which is crazy to think of
Wow.
because I had, it's scary. I had to have an emergency C-section. So then to be like, oh my gosh, I was on my feet already making another movie. But I couldn't say no because I got to work with Tony Todd, who,
Ooh.
I mean, come on, how
Yeah,
many times are you going to have
Candyman.
that opportunity? He's amazing. He's a
Yeah,
legend. So I
Candyman.
couldn't say no to that. And it was really cool. And I'm excited. It's called Werewolf Game and it's kind of based on that party game that people play.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. Lydia, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. Again, guys, the movie is called Slayers. It's coming out in select theaters and video on demand October 21st. That is this Friday. Check it out. It's a horror comedy, vampires with a twist, and told in a really nice, unique, different way. It definitely gives it a fresh perspective. Lydia, thank you again. Do you have any final
Thank
thoughts you
you
want to
so
share
much.
before we go?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we covered a little bit of anything and
Yeah.
everything. But I'm happy to come back on if you ever think of anything
Oh,
else.
definitely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to thank
Thank
our
you so much.
audience who's tuning in live and those of you who'll be watching this later on. On behalf of Lydia Hearst and myself, stay safe and stay walking. Good night, everybody.